Hello, friends. I hope that you are having a wonderful day so far. As you know, it is Monday, so we are going to be taking another look at another jump and progressing Luciano the Jumper's Chain. For those of you who have never seen this video series before, in this video series, we follow a jumper named Luciano as they journey across the Omniverse. So far, they have gone from Super Mario 64 to Generic Fist to Sonic Adventure, and now we are going to be going to Generic Platformer, a jump which is unique in two different senses. The first sense is that it is the first jump that I have made that we are going to be taking a look at, and the second sense is that it is the first supermarket style jump that we have done that I'm going to be taking a look at. For those of you who do not know, most jumps have origins/identities, which is a method of providing a jumper a context in which they exist in a jump, providing them with perhaps a handful of abilities or unique traits, and then also giving them a method of having discounts on some perks and some items. Supermarket style jumps ignore the origin/background aspect of different jump chains, and by jump chains I do mean jump docks. On occasion there's people who use the two terms interchangeably, but that is pretty rare. I'm mostly just flubbed up a little linguistically just now. But this is a specific style of jump making that comes from the subreddit that lots of people are first exposed to jump chains through. That said, this is going to be a fun time, and I'm excited for you to be here with us. Before we moved any further, I wanted to take a second to acknowledge the cute little image that I used as a header. This image comes from Pixabay, and oftentimes if I am creating a generic jump, the header images that are often found at the start of the jumps will come from Pixabay. I really liked it. I thought it was cute and captured the essence of platformer, so I wanted to share it. We are now going to just be taking a look at everything in order. Here is the generic blurb. In this particular case, the nomenclature that I used for the actual points is platformer rather than choice, and that makes the acronym PP, obviously. We are going to be taking a glance at the locations. So this is another common aspect of these particular types of jumps. Oftentimes, the sort of generic supermarket jumps will have two starting locations, one of which is generic whatever world, and then it will be a world that has been thematically and physically influenced by the genre of thing that is the subject of the jump. And then there is a portal world that allows you to go to any world that is a platforming world. In this case, a platforming world would be something like the world of the Mario video games, the world of the Sonic video games, the world of Mega Man, which is a platformer that I actually did not have a perk specifically referencing, which some people thought was curious. I thought that it was worth not doing every single major platforming thing, although I do have perks for Link, which is a bit of a surprising choice, Mario and Sonic, all of which we are going to be taking a look at over the course of this jump. But just so you know, these two types of worlds are some of the more common types of worlds that people will see if they do these types of jumps frequently, especially if the supermarket style jumps they go to are generic ones. Now, not every single supermarket style jump is generic, but most of them that I have seen are, and I think that that is because supermarket style jumps tend to work better, at least in my opinion, for generic things, because for generic things you don't tend to have identities that you would want to have unless it is a like super commonplace generic thing such as generic post-apocalypse or something like that. And generic post-apocalypse is a jump that exists, although it actually isn't supermarket style, at least not as far as I can remember. If anyone is curious, I'll probably link it in the description. It is a very fun jump. But now we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the sections that are a little bit more unique. The age, origin, and sex options are things that are very fascinating in these particular types of jumps, because as I have mentioned before, these types of jumps are originless. So that means that you tend to have the option to pick whatever you want for something like this. It is worth noting that some supermarket style jumps actually do allow you to have in-jump memories and an in-jump identity. It is just that you do not get discounts based off of this. This is just a way for you to exist and a context for you to exist in these jumps. These jumps also tend to have a sort of you can get a career and have a decade's worth of experience with that career, often as a sort of first purchase free, and then every subsequent purchase regular amount of points worth. So in this case, I didn't do that for this particular jump, but if I had, I would have been able to do something like, oh, here is a career that is related to parkour, acrobatics, and movement in some way, such as being a professional track and field runner or being a professional free runner. Here is a decade's worth of experience you could get with that. I don't have a perk like that in this particular jump. That is just not something that I thought would be super relevant to this, but I am also the author of the generic narco novella jump, which is a jump that we might visit in the future, and that particular jump does have a career-based perk in it, as do many other different supermarket style jumps. Going to take things a little bit slow so that way we can make sure that we properly have all of the knowledge and note all of the differences in the perk section before we go ahead and decide on our build. For those of you who are curious, perks in this particular type of jump will always cost 100 points unless otherwise stated. Various jumps have both free perks and perks that cost more than 100 choice points. In fact, some of these types of jumps will have perks that are conditionally free, such as the first purchase of a perk being free, and then we'll also have perks that cost 200 or 300, whatever type of points you're using in that particular jump. In this case, it is platforming points. And then we are going to go ahead and mention the little tokens that are mentioned here. Tokens are a supermarket style jumps method of allowing discounts and allowing freebies. What they do is they can be spent on perks or items or companions depending on the specific jump. And once used, they will give you something either for free or at a discounted rate. I have seen both of those rulings on different supermarket style jumps over the about year or so that I have started seeing supermarket style jumps become more and more commonplace. Although above and beyond, by far the most common place to see supermarket style jumps is on the Reddit jump chain community. These can be used to grab almost anything in this jump for free. We are definitely going to be using them in addition to the standard 1,000 points budgets that we have. We have not yet implemented the bank supplement, although as of the time that this video is being filmed, the bank supplement has been talked about in a different video. It was on a video on alt chains, supplements, and house rules. And now we are going to go ahead and talk about the actual perks that we are going to be getting throughout this jump. So, as you can see, there's already a handful of perks that should be catching people's eyes. For those of you who don't know, Luciano the jumper is a very mobility-based jumper, which was part of the reason why I wanted to come to the setting and why I thought this would be a fun supermarket style as Luciano's first supermarket style. We are going to be going ahead and snagging the 2 free perks. Colorful is a sort of reality perception-based perk that allows Luciano the jumper to visualize the world around them in a different way. It does not actually affect the world, and it is not something that you can transmit to other people. It simply changes the way the world looks. So if Luciano wanted to change the world from looking like a semi-realistic world into a world that was influenced by the art of Sonic the Hedgehog or the Super Mario Brothers games, that is something they would be able to do with this perk. Soundtrack is a similar perk in that it is not something that actually affects the world around you, but it gives you the ability to perceive the world in a different way. In this particular case, it can be used to have an internal soundtrack that plays music from different platforming games. Both of these are fun free perks. Luciano is going to be grabbing both Parkourist Creativity and Parkourist Luck. Both of these are fun perks that give you different methods of traversing the world. Specifically, Parkourist Creativity is something that allows you to increase your overall ability to perceive the world in methods that relate to parkour or the art of free running. So you are able to perceive the world and strategize more efficiently and more effectively about how to get from point A to point B. Parkourist Luck is a perk that makes it so that you are luckier when it comes to traversing the world in speedy and efficient ways. And what this means is there will always be more options for you to take. If you are in a busy street, there will be ways for you to cross the street rather efficiently, or there will be ways for you to navigate from the bottom of a building to the top of a building more efficiently, such as there will be more fire escapes that you can dart up, or there'll be more tight alleyways where you could theoretically jump from wall to wall if that is a perk that you have. And it's worth noting that that actually is something that you would be able to do from a perk from here, but also that is something that Luciano the Jumper could do from one of their base perks from the first jump they went to, Super Mario 64. Alright, so our remaining budget is 800 points. We are now going to be able to take a look at Hero of the Parkour, which is a Breath of the Wild inspired parkour mod perk that allows you to do the sorts of things that Link was able to do. It both increases your luck in finding gadgets that could help you traverse the world and gives you Link's stamina and grip strength, which is something that was tremendously handy for people who wanted to explore the world of Breath of the Wild, that version of post-apocalyptic Hyrule. I very much enjoyed traversing the world as that particular version of Link, so we are going to be grabbing both this and the next perk. The next perk is Killer Parkourist. Killer Parkourist is a Metroidvania-inspired perk in the sense that it offers the ability to navigate the world in a method surprisingly similar to some Metroidvania and also Mega Man inspired abilities, in the sense that the enemies you defeat can grant you new abilities that you can use to navigate the world more effectively. When I uploaded this to Reddit a couple of days ago, as of the time of the filming of this video, I got a question about the scale of the equipment that someone would be able to get, because as mentioned in the perk, if you defeat an enemy with a jetpack, defeating them will give you a jetpack of your very own. The intention is for this to be limited to personal scale equipment, so someone would not be able to get something like, say, a car from defeating an enemy that has a car. Although if that is not how you want to rule it, that is fine by me. That is just the author's intent. Plumbing Physiology and Gotta Go Fast are the almost obligatory Sonic and Mario perks for this particular jump. For those of you who don't know, Luciano the Jumper already has a Sonic and a Mario perk from different jumps and different things that they have already visited. So they are not going to be grabbing these. Instead, they're going to be using their first 2 tokens to get household power-ups, which allows there to be items that will power up the jumper both in this jump and in future jumps, a la Super Mario Brothers, or even the upgrades from the Sonic Adventure series. And then mythic power-ups, which creates truly powerful power-ups that do everything from granting conditional 1-ups to allowing for true invulnerability for a limited amount of time. That means that we still have our remaining choice points, as well as the 2 remaining tokens that we have not used. Following this, we are going to be grabbing Friendly Sort and Gadget Assisted Travel. Friendly Sort is an important perk that allows you to quickly befriend people by doing favors for them, and also makes it so that you are trusted a little bit more. This is a very fun perk for if you want to be involved in the story, or if you want to gradually and quickly accrue influence over an area. And then Gadget Assisted Travel is a perk that I'm especially fond of. This makes it so that your jumper is more skilled at navigating the world through the sort of on-foot, not through on-foot shenanigans, but through the usages of different devices that they could find, whether it is something like Flood, a device that is intended to assist with mobility, or even something that is not intended to assist with mobility, like a cape that someone uses when they want to fly or something like that. Or at least when they want to pretend to fly, actually being able to give you a bonus to your ability to navigate the world. I am especially fond of both of these perks. I feel like they reflect different curious aspects of modern platforming games particularly well, so I hope that people are going to like them. After this, we are going to be hopping down over to near the bottom of this particular jump, and we're going to be taking a look at Parkour Prodigy, which is a perk that we are going to grab. It grants a lifetime's worth of experience with parkour. This is effectively the in-jump equivalent of the career jump, and this just makes it so that you are able to learn more fast doing these kinds of things. It grants you immunity to minor things that could negatively affect a parkourist, such as getting blunt damage from running headfirst into a wall. It grants the ability to have a kind of double jump, and we are also going to be grabbing several of the remaining perks from here, so let's go ahead and take a second to talk about them. Our remaining budget prior to drawbacks should be 300 points left, and we are going to be spending 200 of those points right now. We are going to be grabbing both aquatic acrobatics and offensive parkour, which are just very handy quality of life parkour based things. Offensive parkour allows you to use parkour offensively to tremendous effect. You could use this to instantly kill someone, assuming they are probably of human level endurance and they are not especially well armored at the time that you do something like land on them. You can instantly kill them. The intention was for this to replicate both Sonic and Mario's most offensive way, and not most offensive, but most commonplace way of dealing with enemies offensively, which is just to land on them. Aquatic acrobatics is one of my favorite perks in this particular jump. I am especially fond of it. It makes it so that you are immune to water. It's worth noting that there is a drawback that someone could take in this jump that would supersede aspects of this and dampen others, but that is 200 points. We are going to be going ahead and spending one of our remaining tokens on the aerial maneuvers perk. With the aerial maneuvers perk, you are able to do a true double jump in the sense that you are able to jump in midair and you are able to do an air dash where you dart forward in a direction in the air in a direction of your choice while not losing height. So you could use this to dash forward, you could use it to dash side to side, you could use it to dash backwards. You cannot use this to dash upwards, although that is not explicitly stated. And initially with this perk, you can only do it once in midair. You can only do both of these things once while in midair until you land and then go back up in midair. But with training, you begin to be able to increase the number of times you could do this. The other thing that we are not going to be doing right now, we are not going to be going ahead and spending the final 100 or the final token that we have left right this second. Instead, we are going to hop forward to the item section. We are going to be using the final little thing on that we have on the rainy day slots, and by final little thing, what I mean is we are going to be using our final token on the rainy day slot. This is a hammer space pouch that allows you to store different items that you can have. It is especially handy if someone wants to go ahead and make sure that they will always have the ability to store a power-up without using it. Power-ups are very handy because with a power-up, you can actually take a hit and you would not have any true damage, you would lose the power up that you have, but you would not actually be knocked out or something by the hits. That said, certain types of damage can overwhelm that. If it is something that would instantly kill you, such as getting decapitated, or something along the lines of being tossed into a spike pit where you would be instantaneously impaled, those sorts of things will still instantly kill you. It's just that most forms of damage, even as far as getting shot, as long as it is not a one-hit kill, would not knock you out or permanently damage you. They would only make you lose the power-up. So we have now used all of our tokens, and we are going to go ahead and purchase the network item using our final set of points before we go and get drawbacks. And with the network item, someone has the ability to navigate the world very quickly. In my head, I envision this taking the form of something along the lines of the paint portal system from Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine, although the paint portal system operates a little differently in both of those particular games. In Super Mario 64, you hop into a painting and are teleported either into the painting or to some other location that physically exists somewhere in the world where power stars are being located. I don't know if that is ever explicitly stated which is which. And then in Super Mario Sunshine, it is a system of instantaneous fast travel that allows you to visit other parts of Isle Delfino super rapidly. This is just something that I am especially fond of. I really like the ability to very quickly navigate the world. With this particular item, this is something that you retain in future jumps, so you could use it to travel from one part of the setting that you're in to the other. If you are in the Star Wars world, this could be a form of teleportation pads, a form of force-assisted fast travel. If you are in another world, this could be a sort of train that has the ability to compress distances and allows you to get from one place to another very quickly. It could be a sort of jet that allows you to very speedily navigate the world. How it manifests is going to be up to you, but effectively what it means is your jumper never has to be worried about distance ever again, at least not in the context of one setting. Although I would still make it so that if the form of travel is not instantaneous, some time passes. It's worth noting that there is a perk that achieves a vastly less powerful but similar effect named Map Screen, which makes it so that you can vastly shorten the distance between locations by entering a map screen and then creating up to 10 waypoints between your location and the place you want to go to. And once you get to the location of a certain waypoint, you are able to quickly travel over the course of that waypoint, and you will expand the distance that you travel at a truly tremendous speed. And now we are going to go ahead and take a look at the drawbacks of this particular jump so we can have a little bit more fun and get some more stuff for future jumps. Right, we are now in the drawback section of this particular jump dock. The first drawback that we are going to be taking is the first drawback that is here. It is the constantly questing drawback. I am very fond of this particular drawback. It is effectively a time cruncher that makes it a little bit easier to visualize how time here would be spent. The purpose of it is to make people constantly need help. They will not hesitate to ask the jumper, and they will definitely not hesitate to ask Luciano, because Luciano has the friendly sort perk for help. The help that they need can easily compound, and it can make the world situation worse over time up until eventually the world is in a radically different state. Luciano will not be letting that happen. Luciano will definitely be helping people out as much as they can, especially because they actually have reward-based perks, which make it so that if they help people, people are inclined to help them out in little ways. So these sorts of things just build on each other. We are now going to be going ahead and going back up to the perk section so that way we can use the choice points that we have just gotten. We are going to be grabbing the Curious Healing Factor, and we are going to be making it capitalism based. So what Curious Healing Factor does is it allows a jumper to have a sort of conditional healing factor. Luciano already has solid regeneration, but this is something that makes it so their regeneration is even stronger under some conditions. And in my head, the way that this is going to manifest is that if they get money, they are able to heal dramatically faster. This is based off of the Mario ability from both Super Mario 64 and various other Mario games, where Mario recovers health after grabbing coins. I always thought that that was such a bizarre mechanic, but since we are in jump chains, I thought it would be fun to give a jumper a version of that. I have on occasion seen other perks that allow this to happen, but this is something that is surprisingly rare given how ubiquitous it is in different Mario games. So I thought it would be a fun thing to include here. We are now going to go ahead and head back to the drawback section. We are actually going to go ahead and grab the boss enemies drawback. I really like the boss enemies drawback. The boss enemies drawback makes it so that you will be facing boss enemies more often. A boss enemy, for those of you who are not familiar with that term, is an enemy that is beefy and is able to do hard-hitting attacks. Oftentimes in a platforming video game, it is also a term that can be used to describe an enemy that can take more than one hit, because usually bosses are not one-hit knockouts, and that is not super unique, but it's also not very commonplace for these types of enemies. This is just something that I thought was going to be fun to include. It also makes it so that you see generic versions of boss enemies in future, like after you have encountered the boss before, as generic normal enemies that are stronger than regular mooks, as they are sometimes called. So now we have an additional 200 choice points that we could use on anything that we want. I do think that what we are going to be using it on this time is, I think we're going to be using it on the very mobile item. At least 100 of those 200, and we are going to be grabbing a set of boomerangs like Ty the Tasmanian Tiger's boomerangs. For those of you who don't know, that is a video game saga that has platforming elements. I do not know if it super qualifies as a platformer, but it was definitely one of the inspirations for this particular jump. I really liked that video game, and in it, Ty the Tiger is able to use boomerangs both as weapons, which is going to be the secondary function of the boomerangs, and also to navigate the world. Ty the Tiger is able to use the boomerangs to glide across the air. He can use them to climb up places. He can use them to activate puzzles and to navigate the world in ways that are a little bit more exciting and dynamic than just running, jumping, and biting things would be. So I really like that. That is 100 of the points. We are also going to be grabbing the useful stage completion item, and the useful stage completion item is a sort of amorphous MacGuffin that can be used to power different things. The inspiration for this is certainly both the power stars in the Mario video games and the Shine Sprites, and both of those serve different functions in their games. The Shine Sprites help protect and help keep the island of Isle Delfino clean, and the power stars can be used to power the starship that Mario uses to navigate the world, or rather the universe, in Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, and also as a method of navigating Princess Peach's castle in Super Mario 64. Luciano has not had any of those types of items up until now, so I thought that this would be a good place to grant them to Luciano, and with this, I believe that we actually have all of the things that Luciano is going to be grabbing from this particular jump. We are continuing the trend of Luciano not having companions. We are also not going to be going ahead and doing something quite like boosting Luciano's body mod this particular jump, so I thought that that would be a good end point for this video, and I also thought it would be nice for one of these videos to not be especially long, but for those of you who wanted to see some of the other things, you are now able to go ahead and take a look at both the notes, and in a second I'll go back and slowly navigate the drawbacks so that way people can see it. But as always, this is a video of a jump doc, so the jump doc is going to be in the video description for people who want to go see it. I very much enjoy this particular jump, and I hope that this was a nice little introduction to grocery store things. Grocery store is another form of the name supermarket style, although supermarket style, I think, is the original name, and grocery store is just something that some people call it. I know that I've called it that before, and I've also seen people on a handful of other websites refer to these as grocery store style jumps. This jump was inspired both by a need for there to be a generic platformer jump and also by Burkus's supermarket style jumps over on the Jump Chain subreddits. This second thing is not super relevant anymore, but the plan for this jump was for it to grow and be usable for anything from Vex, which is a video game series in which you play a lad who has claws that help him navigate the world, to Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, which we've talked about before. I also talked about Killer Parkourist's motivation and inspiration. And it's worth noting that some aspects of the jump, especially some of the drawbacks and the goalpost item, were created by friends who came in and suggested them back when there was a super easy to find Google Docs version of this. I am using the more publicly available PDF, partially because I was able to figure out how to do PDFs and make them viewable online after a friend told me how to do so on the Jump Chain subreddits. I am not good at technology, so previously we definitely would have been looking at a Google Doc of this rather than what we are looking at right now. I very much appreciate that friend commenting. I cannot pronounce their Reddit username, so I'm not even going to try, but this is definitely a little jump that is going to be giving Luciano a lot more mobility options. I imagine that Luciano will be finding flying enemies, especially since one of the big motivations and inspirations that I was thinking of when I wrote the Killer Parkourist perk was I thought I had two big inspirations. One of them was jetpack wielding space pirates from Metroid Prime, and the other one was actually winged enemies like the winged Goombas and the winged Koopas from the Mario video games. And in my head, defeating any of those types of enemies would grant you their mobility things. So if you defeated a winged Koopa, you would then be able to fly using wings yourself. If you defeated a jetpack wielding enemy, you would be able to get the jetpack yourself. Just things like that. So I imagine that there's lots of those different types of enemies, and I imagine that as a result of that, Luciano is going to leave this jump a lot more powerful than they entered it, especially in terms of mobility things. I don't know if they would encounter like slime based enemies, which was also one of the big inspirations. I thought of slimes as just sort of compressing themselves down and slinking between iron bars. One of the things that actually didn't make the jump that I'm kind of sad about, and I'll probably include in an update in the future, was a drawback that makes the world a lot more Metroidvania inspired. So even a super speedy jumper would not be able to fully navigate the world from the start. They would need to defeat enemies and acquire mobility bonuses, such as the ability to double jump or something like that. In a double jump in a true you can leap in midair sense, not double jump in the sense that when you hit the ground and then immediately jump, your next jump has a little bit more heights sense. But things like that where navigating the world would be a lot harder to do and would require your jumper to do things before they could reach areas that are very far from them, such as, oh, you can't enter a castle because it's locked, or you can't enter a castle because there's a magical barrier that you need an ability to get past before you can enter it. Things like that. I will definitely be planning an update to this jump at some point in the future. I just don't quite know when. I'm also hoping that people can hear me a little bit better. I have spent this whole jump a lot closer to my microphone and also speaking a lot more forcefully, so hopefully that is obvious. That said, I hope that you have a wonderful day. We are going to be moving on, and we will be seeing each other later on in this week. Until then, I hope that you all have a wonderful time, and I can't wait to see you again.